Hello, my friend, and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about staying in your lane. And I kind of touched on this before, but I really want to talk about this in a different way. And um, as I talked about before, I usually don't really feel in. Um, I don't plan my videos, and I usually don't think about them at all before I do them. However, in meditation today, I got this hit of inspiration, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have to talk about this in the video. I actually was thinking about maybe not doing a video today because I have a bunch of stuff to do, but I just love it so much, and when the inspiration comes, you just gotta let it flow, right? So the reason why staying in your lane is so important in this aspect of the way we're going to talk about it today is because when you are wanting to go out of your lane into someone else's lane, that you are doing that with ego and with judgment, and you don't know what is influencing you on that judgment of that other person, and you are being mainly influenced by your own ego and your own perspective through your own, through those blinders that you look at life by. That is how you are look at someone else's life. And I'm not saying that that is wrong, because it kind of is the only perspective that you have. And if you're able to pass judgment on someone else, you are able, and you are also able to be influenced by other people, which would then influence the way you're looking at someone else. And an example of this is when you are not, it's hardest to stay in our lane with the people closest to us. How that is the time that you really want to help them and let them know and to tell them and whatnot. But what you're not realizing, and if you were to realize that, how are other people influencing you to want to influence someone else? And I don't mean that in exactly a positive way. If it is someone close to you, then you probably have other people that are close to you that are giving you your opinions on that other person, or their opinions on that other person and what that other person should be doing and whatnot. And what you don't realize is, just by listening to that and just by hearing that, you are then also being influenced through that. And then the perspective that you see that person through is tainted by then a third party's ego and opinion and their perspective. Because remember, we're all looking through a limited perspective. All humans look through a limited perspective. It is part of humanity, and regardless of how wise or smart or enlightened or whatever you think a person might be, they are still looking through a limited perspective. Yes, they can be a little bit more objective and their perspective can widen a little bit. However, there is not a single person on earth that is not influenced by ego. And by the level that they are influenced by their ego can fluctuate. It is always influenced by ego and the thinking mind. There is no way to completely escape that and to completely transcend that as a human, because that is part of the human experience. We aren't meant to do away with our ego and, do away with being, influenced or anything like that. We are meant to bring our awareness to it and then work from that place, because our ego serves us at a certain level, or otherwise we wouldn't have it. So, with that being said, if you start to think of it in that way, the next time you're thinking about getting outside of your lane and going into someone else's lane to tell them, what you think is wrong with their life and what you think that they should be doing better or more of, or anything like that, bring your awareness to, where are these opinions coming from? What is my position in relation to them? And how is my position in life influencing what I think is right for them? And when you start to think of it from that perspective, you come to realize that maybe your opinion is more tainted than you thought. Maybe when you were about to go outside your lane and you were trying to steer someone in another direction, maybe that is a little more tainted than you thought it was going to be. And I can only, I'm empathic, so it is very easy for me to match other people's energies. You can't match. There is a common misconception with being empathic that you take on each other's energies. And yes, you as an empathic person can relieve someone of their energies. However, you are more something inside of you is matching that energy when you are starting to feel the way another person feels. And you can do this unconsciously if you don't have boundaries. That is why you can go into an area and feel what they are feeling. You are not actually taking on and absorbing that energy. You can, if you don't have boundaries, it is possible for you to absorb it, but not without you matching that energy first. And that takes like some deep looking into and some awareness, and it takes clear, concise, energetic boundaries. I set clear, concise, energetic boundaries every single morning, but it doesn't mean that I am not incapable of being influenced by other people. I am actually even more capable of being influenced by other people because I am empathic and because it gives you an objectiveness of feeling the way that other people feel when they're talking to you. So take that third party that is giving your opinion on the person that you want to go out of your lane for. Because I can so much understand what they are feeling and how they are feeling and where they are coming from, it is much easier for me to fall into the trap of thinking that they know what they're talking about. And I don't mean that in a mean way, like you have no idea what you're talking about, but when you're coming through a limited perspective, a lot of times you don't know what you're talking about. And especially when it's coming to enforcing or trying to inflict something on someone else's life. The divine is really the only one that can truly teach those lessons. That is why when someone needs to make a change in their life and you want to be the one to tell them, that's why it pretty much almost never works. Because unless that person has the desire to make that change within themselves, there's absolutely nothing you can do or say that is going to make them want to change. And you just have to leave your faith and throw it up to the divine and let the chips fall where they may, because the divine knows what that soul is trying to learn during that point. The divine knows the plan for that soul and what is best for that soul and how to give that soul those lessons so they have the growth and evolution that they were here to have. And our limited human perspective on that is very minuscule to what the divine can do. And if you even reflect back on your own life and you think about the times that you decided to make a change or, decided to do something, if you think about it, like, yes, maybe the people around you were talking about it, but that aha moment came from within. That decision, that final chop of like, okay, something needs to change here, usually comes from within. It usually doesn't come from someone outside of you, regardless of how close they are, saying that you should change this and this is why and this is what I think. And, because we're all influenced by each other because we're all a collective. But that is why serious life changes come from within. It comes from a deep aha moment, a lot of times fueled by circumstances in your life, and circumstances that a lot of times are outside of your control. And that is why it is so important for us to not want to go outside of your lane and that's why it's so important for us to stay in our lane. And the other reason, so that is one aspect of why, it's because like when you start to veer outside of your lane, you're coming from that limited human ego perspective, because the divine, your soul, your higher self doesn't, they want to stay in your lane. They want to stay in your own lane. And the reason why they want to stay in your own lane is because your inner reality creates your outer reality. So when someone, regardless of how close to you, if someone in your life is not acting the way you want them to act or the way you think you're acting, you need to go within and say, one, why is this triggering me? Two, what are they doing in their life that I am also doing in mine? And that's really powerful, because once you start, say someone really close to you gossips, and you aren't into gossip and you don't really like that, and you going outside of your lane is you want to tell them that it's not nice to gossip, and you don't want them to gossip anymore, and you don't want them to talk like that anymore. It's not good energy for them. You need to really look in your life at where you're being triggered by that and why you're being triggered by that. Because are you gossiping in a way that you don't really feel like is gossip, or that you're not bringing your awareness to, and you feeling that way about someone else is really that mirror reflecting back onto you about a trait in yourself or a behavior in yourself that you're actually not liking? Because if you didn't have that energy with somewhere inside of you, you would not be being triggered. You would not be triggered by someone outside of you doing something that you don't like, that you don't think is right. You wouldn't be as triggered by it. You wouldn't feel that fire and all riled up about wanting to tell them how they should be acting, what they should be doing. That is what being triggered is getting that emotional response to something that someone else is doing. So take a good, deep, hard look at your life and your behaviors, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and say, why am I being triggered by someone else? What are they digging up inside of me? What energy inside of me am I matching of theirs to make me feel like I am being triggered by them? And once you start to look at that, I think most times you will be able to find, even if it's a small part of you that maybe could use a little bit of adjustment. Maybe you could heed that advice that you want to give to someone else. Maybe you could heed it in your own life. Did you ever have someone give you advice and they say, well, like, I should be listening to this too, or, this is advice for me too? That's why. It's why. And that's because that they could use that work too. And like I said, this message, I'm doing the same thing. This message is just as much for me. I felt inspired by this message because something that is going on in my life, and because I very much so wanted to go out of my lane. And I needed this. I needed this inspiration. I needed this video. I needed this channeling to tell me that go within. Go within. Any change you want to see on the outside world, go within. Regardless of how close that person is to you, or how big the issue is, or if it's a societal issue or whatever is there, if it is bothering you, then there is something inside of you that needs to be healed. And by healing healing does mean maybe adjusting a pattern or redirecting a thought process, or, action. A lot of times it is action that you could be taking in your own life. And that is why, so I want to give this last example before we go. They give this example a lot, and specifically in the Olympics. When you watch the Olympics and you're watching, say, swimming, for example, this is the example that's coming in my head. The person that wins, always, the person who comes in first place, that takes that gold medal, you will notice never, ever, ever looks to one side or the other. Never. Never. They are fucking laser focused on themselves, staying in their lane and just giving 110% on what they are doing. They know it is an all out whatever. They're not concerned about the contestant to the left or to the right of them. They are just laser focused on their, and that is how you win. That is how they win. And if you notice, a lot of times the person who comes in second or third, I've seen this, they've replayed it. At some point during the race, they glance over. And that split second of going out of their lane and worrying about what someone else is doing could have caused them to lose the race. I'm not saying that life is a race and that we're winning. I'm just giving the example of how powerful staying in your lane and only worrying about yourself. That little Thug Life girl video, putting on the seatbelt. And the dad says, "Can I help you?" And she says, "No, I got it." And he says, "Well, what can I do?" And the little girl says, "Worry about yourself." It's so true. It's so true. So that is our message for today. I hope you enjoyed it. This is going to help me to stay in my lane and go within and bring the awareness of the things in my life that I want to be getting in line. And I am going to focus on that, on myself, and I'm going to stay in my lane. And I'm not going into anyone else's lane, because you know why? I want that gold medal. So I hope you guys do the same, and I hope this helped you and brought you a little bit of value. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you tomorrow.